Developing right now on Morning News Now, history in federal court. This morning, fired FBI Director James Comey set to be arraigned on criminal charges over allegations he lied at a 2020 congressional hearing. This just hours after Attorney General Pam Bondi clashed with lawmakers on Capitol Hill when asked about President Trump's influence on Comey's indictment.
I am not going to discuss any conversations I have, nor any investigations, nor
you are unwilling to tell
pending
this committee
cases
about conversations with the White House.
And if I may
James
continue,
Comey's indictment.
James Comey was indicted by one of the most liberal grand juries in the United States.
We're in Washington with the latest on the case and what's at stake. Also developing troops on the ground. This morning, members of the Texas National Guard waking up in Illinois despite pushback against President Trump's so-called anti-crime crackdown. And the government taking its toll at airports across the country as air traffic controllers face staffing shortages and passengers deal with delays. What you need to know before your next flight. Plus, fall is so back. After days of summer-like temperatures, we are tracking cooler temperatures, even some rain for parts of the East Coast. We'll bring you the latest forecast, including freeze alerts and flood advisories. And some not-so-sweet news for soda and juice lovers. The new study that links drinks with real sugar and artificial sweeteners to liver problems.
Good morning. Good to have you with us. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. Busy day today. We're going to begin our show with the arraignment of former FBI Director James Comey. He's due in federal court this morning to face 2 counts, one of making a false statement and another of obstruction of a political proceeding.
They stem from testimony that Comey gave during a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing back in 2020. Now, ahead of last month's indictment, President Trump publicly pressured Attorney General Pam Bondi and the DOJ to go after Comey and other political adversaries. Comey denies any wrongdoing. Joining us now to talk about this, NBC News Justice reporter Ryan Riley and NBC News legal analyst Misty Maris. Good morning to both of you. Ryan, let's start with you. Remind us how we got here. What are the charges and how do they relate to that Comey hearing back in 2020?
Yeah, it's really complicated, Joe. Essentially, what they're looking at is saying that he was lying when he said he stood by his previous testimony from 2017. The statute of limitations plays a big role here because there was a 5-year statute of limitations. So really the only way they could have gotten Comey was by sort of rushing these charges over the line. And sort of the main thing I think that viewers should focus on here is who exactly is bringing this case. It's someone with zero prosecutorial experience. It was a White House aide who was previously working on the Smithsonian review. And she actually walked to the wrong table. One of our producers observed her going to the wrong table. It was the first ever case that she brought. And she also had to bring in outsiders to bring this case over the line because career prosecutors in the Eastern District of Virginia apparently did not want to go along with this case. So there's a very low bar for the initial indictment. But I think when this case actually goes before a judge, it gets more serious and proceeds presumably to a grand jury trial is when you're going to see some of the cracks in this investigation potentially show, because legal experts don't think that this is a slam dunk at all for the government.
Missy, let's bring you in here. How is today's arraignment expected to proceed, and what do you think we're likely to see from Comey?
Well, I think this is interesting because we're talking about a really rookie prosecutor bringing this case, and the dichotomy between Patrick Fitzgerald, who's going to be Comey's lawyer, a veteran prosecutor, decades of experience. But an arraignment is a pretty procedural process. Comey will come in, the formal charges will be read, he will enter a plea, it will be not guilty, and then we'll get a sense of what the timeline is like for next steps. I expect that the defense is going to want to make a motion to dismiss at some point. We're going to see what the next conference date will be, and that will give us some sense of how that's all going to play out.
So, Ryan, yesterday, Attorney General Pam Bondi, she was pressed by senators on the Judiciary Committee about the public pressure she faced from President Trump on social media to prosecute Comey, any conversations she may have had with the White House. How did she respond to that?
You know, she essentially said she wouldn't talk about them, but what we did have was these public pronunciations on social media calling on her directly. So we know a lot of this because it happened out in public, right? Her private conversations would certainly be revealing, but what's already on the public record is extremely revealing about the basis for this case. You know, there's going to try to be these comparisons between the Jack Smith case and this case, and as you know, as Missy pointed out there, the rookie experience of the prosecutor, I think, is sort of one of the key things. Look, Jack Smith case, you had these experienced prosecutors. Jack Smith himself was extremely experienced with years of a record within the Justice Department. And in this case, you have someone who is best known for defending the president on television during the proceedings of the James Comey case.
So, Misty, what do you think here about the strength of the case? We heard Ryan say a lot of legal experts aren't sure it's really there. What do you think, and how does that mean each side approaches this trial?
Well, so we won't know what the evidence is until it actually goes to trial. But based on what we know so far, there's a lot of skepticism to bring the case to begin with. When it came to the grand jury, only 14 out of 23 voted to indict. So that's not great odds when you're talking about needing a jury to find beyond a reasonable doubt by 12 individuals. And then the other piece of this is that we talked about this motion to dismiss for selective or vindictive prosecution. We're likely to see the defense take that path. And normally you're looking for something that maybe was done in back channels. Maybe there's a memo somewhere. We're going to be pulling the Truth Social and using that as the basis from a defense perspective to see if this can be thrown out before it even gets to the court.
So there is a chance the judge in this case could just look at that alone and say, I'm tossing this case?
It's possible. Now, every defense attorney makes that motion. 99% of the time, it is denied. But here, we've got a little bit different of a scenario with everything that's out there in the public sphere.
All right. Misty and Ryan, thank you for kicking us off this hour. We appreciate it.
Well, the legal battle over President Trump's efforts to send troops into U.S. cities is taking on new urgency this morning as troops from the Texas National Guard have arrived in Illinois just outside Chicago.
President Trump argues the troops are needed to crack down on crime in Democrat-led cities across the country. These National Guard troops arrived yesterday. They've set up a staging area at an Army Reserve base. Texas Governor Greg Abbott says the troops are, quote, putting America first by ensuring that the federal government can safely enforce federal law.
NBC News senior White House correspondent Garrett Haake joins us with the latest here. Garrett, good morning. So we've seen this escalation by the Trump administration, sending these federal troops specifically to Democratic-led cities. We saw Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem visit Portland, Oregon yesterday, another city being targeted by the White House on this front. What's the latest on the ground in both these places we're discussing as they're pushing this crackdown on crime?
Yeah, and Kash Patel in Chicago yesterday, Savannah. I think these are slightly different but related situations. In Chicago, the focus is on crime more generally. You've heard the president tease this deployment for, months now, trying to get the National Guard in there to do something like what they did here in Washington, D.C., to try to suppress crime more generally. In Portland, the focus is narrower. They want to send the Guard and other federal resources to protect an ICE facility there that has been the target of some protests for several weeks now. You saw Kristi Noem at that facility yesterday arguing that the Portland police aren't doing enough to keep federal agents safe. Both of these cases are to some degree tied up in the legal process. There will be court hearings tomorrow in two different states to try to find some agreement, some ruling on whether these deployments are legal and what these troops can even do. Although at least in the Chicago case, it doesn't appear that the administration is waiting on any court hearing. They seem poised to move ahead with some degree of deployment starting today.
Garrett, as we mentioned a moment ago, President Trump's Attorney General Pam Bondi was in the hot seat yesterday on Capitol Hill at that Senate Judiciary Committee hearing, facing tough questions from lawmakers about concerns the administration is weaponizing the Justice Department. And Bondi was quite combative. Beyond what the talked about a moment ago, what were the big takeaways yesterday?
Joe, this was supposed to be an oversight hearing. I've covered dozens of them. I've never seen anything quite like this, with the Attorney General shedding far more heat than light on really any topic, refusing to answer senators' questions, being directly combative. She had what seemed like planned one-liners, attacking almost each Democratic senator who asked her questions in turn. Take this piece here as an example, a flavor of what we saw over several hours yesterday in the Senate.
Were you consulted by the White House before they deployed National Guard troops to cities in the United States?
I am not going to discuss any internal conversations with the White House.
You won't even say whether you talked to the White House about this?
I am not going to discuss any internal conversations with the White House with you, Ranking Member. You voted to shut down the government, and you're sitting here. Our law enforcement officers aren't being paid. They're out there working to protect you. I wish you loved Chicago as much as you hate President Trump.
Obviously, Senator Durbin serving Illinois for something like 28 years in the Senate. I think that gives you a sense of what we saw in that hearing yesterday. Not a lot of new facts uncovered in that oversight hearing.
Garrett, we're now 1 week into the federal government shutdown. Also, it's going to continue at least into next week. We're learning the White House is arguing furloughed workers are now not entitled to back pay once the shutdown is lifted. This is a lot of people, regular Americans are interacting with. What more can you tell us about this?
Yeah, look, this came in the form of a draft memo that was floated by the White House yesterday. I think the way to view this is probably as a pressure tactic. There is a federal law in place that says those furloughed workers are, in fact, entitled to back pay once what's called a lapse in appropriations, i.e. once funding is restored to the government. I think what you may be seeing here is the White House looking for ways to find more pressure points. They feel like they only have to flip a handful of Democratic senators, peel off Democrats who would vote for this short-term stopgap funding bill to get the government reopened. They would rather go that route than engage in a full-scale negotiation with Democrats about, health care or other priorities that the Democrats have. So I would not be surprised to see efforts like this discussion about federal worker back pay or other ways where the White House can increase the pain points for Democratic lawmakers to say, guys, whatever else you think about this, let's reopen the government, continue these conversations later. I suspect that float, and we should look at it as a float, is the first, if not the last, such effort by the White House.
All right, Garrett, thank you.
Speaking of the government shutdown, today is day 8, and its impact is now spilling over into airports all across the country. Check out the numbers from the site FlightAware. We've already seen thousands of delays for flights going in and out of the U.S. this week. On Monday, more than 6,000, followed by more than 3,000 delays yesterday. The FAA warns those delays could continue. The longer the shutdown extends, the more it could take a toll on air traffic controllers. They were already working through a staffing shortage. Now they aren't getting paid. NBC News senior correspondent Tom Costello has more.
Nashville and Chicago are the late-breaking airports dealing with delays due to a shortage of controllers. FAA warning that Philadelphia, Indianapolis, Albuquerque, Dallas, Houston, and Boston could also be affected, all fueling concern that what happened in Burbank could soon spread.
Everything in the tower is closed. You have to call the 800 line.
With no controllers in the tower, pilots had to call San Diego controllers as delays quickly grew.
I wouldn't want to come to work if I'm not getting paid either, truthfully.
Controller shortages have also caused delays at Newark, Denver, and Phoenix. Controllers are expected to work without pay for now, even as they're already working mandatory overtime to make up for too few controllers. The FAA and union suggest stress may be a contributing factor.
They've got houses, mortgages, car payments. They have to put food on the table. They're concerned they may not get a paycheck. Right.
So far, controllers have not missed a paycheck. One controller tells NBC News the sick calls will start coming in because some controllers have to work a second job to bring money in. Does the union have any plans at all to organize some sort of a sick out across the entire union?
Absolutely not. We are going to show up to work, again, to serve the American people. We don't control the government opening or the government shutting down, and we sure don't control the government ending it.
While controllers are not furloughed, the president today suggested government workers who are may not receive back pay.
For the most part, we're going to take care of our people. There are some people that really don't deserve to be taken care of, and we'll take care of them in a different way.
But a 2019 law actually requires that furloughed government employees receive back pay. Separately, it is illegal for air traffic controllers to go on strike. So we're going to be watching closely. If they start missing paychecks, might the sick calls increase, and therefore might the delays also increase? We're going to be watching. Back to you.
All right, Tom, thank you. Let's bring in travel expert and Going spokesperson Katie Nastro for more on how travel amid the shutdown is going. So in the immediate future, Katie, there's still no sign of a deal between Democrats and Republicans on Capitol Hill. For those who have upcoming trips planned later this week, this weekend, and they're worried about how to manage these delays, what can you do to make your flight travel as smooth as possible?
Yeah, look, good morning, Joe. Look, we don't know when and if these are going to happen. And if there is a delay, regardless of what the actual reason behind it, whether that's delays due to weather, mechanical issues or whatnot, we want people to be aware that the longer this goes on, the higher the likelihood is that we are going to see delays. So we should always have an alternate plan B, what I like to call a plan B flight, just in case, as that fallback if you need to make alternate arrangements. I will say, though, two bright spots that we have seen in the last 2 days is that these delays, while they have increased, they haven't been really significant outside of ground stops and delays at specific airports. And TSA has not been experiencing any major delays in security lines outside of typical peak hours. But you should definitely prepare to get to the airport a little bit earlier. Again, if this continues, this is where we will see extensive time waits that we could be at the airport waiting for our flight to take off, as well as getting through security. So just being prepared in that way.
I got to say, I have already been traveling since this happened. I've got more to come. But the TSA agents who showed up, everybody was thanking them, saying thanks for coming to work. And I didn't have any problems then. We're a few days further into this. And I think probably a bigger concern here is the FAA rather than TSA. And they could potentially issue something that's called a staffing trigger. That ultimately ends up reducing the number of flights at airports because there's just not enough controllers to handle the traffic safely. If that does become a reality, when do we know something like that? Do flights just kind of like start getting canceled that you might already have booked? And what kind of tips do you have when there are fewer options?
Yeah, a lot of airlines app. I mean, first and foremost, always have your airline app downloaded. That's really going to be your source of immediate notifications. You get those push notifications on your phone faster than emails or texts. And you're going to see delay notices start to come in through there. You're also potentially going to see alternative options presented within your airline app. But I have to say, we have not seen a massive amount of cancellations. However, again, the name of the game is if this lasts and there are more ground stops, ground delays, this is where we could potentially see just, more havoc being wreaked across the country. We do want people to remember, if you have a flight that is significantly delayed by 3+ hours or more, that's for domestic flights, or it is outrightly canceled, regardless of the reason. You have that right to a refund outside of taking a rebooking. And we might see more people take a refund in this scenario, especially as we go on and this government shutdown continues, to just opt not to fly and not deal with the potential for more delays.
Yeah, let's talk about one more specific example. Tom mentioned it was Nashville last night. A 5-hour ground delay was announced there, with the average departure delay stretching to more than 2 hours. Keep in mind, that's a Tuesday night, so not the chaos of winter holidays or the height of summer travel. So as people try to navigate this, I mean, is there a best time to maybe try to schedule your travel to minimize the impact of delays?
Yeah, great question, Joe. And a lot of people are asking themselves, should I change my flight to give me the best odds at getting to where I need to go? Again, we don't know when and if we're going to see delays at the specific airport that you're flying out of. I will say, though, if you can target an earlier flight, you have better chances at taking off on time. We've seen these delays occur later in the afternoon, evening hours, as delays can pile up and just become more of a pain point for all involved, as well as cancellations have a higher rate of occurring later in the day, afternoon, as well as weather. That's still playing effect here. So we want people to just be aware and try to target those morning flights as well as nonstop flights, so you can avoid delays not just at one potential airport, but multiple.
Yeah, that plane is already there first thing in the morning, so your odds are better. Katie, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, really good advice there. All right, 9 months into President Trump's second term, new numbers show illegal crossings at the southern border are reaching record lows. NBC News senior Homeland Security correspondent Julia Ainsley went to the border, and reports on the dramatic change over the past year.
New numbers showing the dramatic change at the border.
We've got the most controlled border we've ever had in the history, and in my lifetime in the Border Patrol.
In Eagle Pass, Texas, during the Biden administration, more than 2,000 migrants crossed into the U.S. in a single day. But now, under President Trump's policies, officers encounter just 20 migrants a day here. DHS touting the lowest number of illegal border crossings since 1970. And Border Patrol Chief Mike Banks tells us they'll expand the 1 mile of defensive buoys on the Rio Grande.
We've got about 500 miles identified across the entire Texas border where we're going to place these in the river.
Is this the new wall?
It's defense in depth.
We were here 2 years ago where migrants used to carry children on their backs to get across this river and cut through this barbed wire to get to the United States. They would see hundreds, even thousands a day in this very spot. But today, it's silent.
North and Del Rio, border residents telling us they're thrilled crossings are down.
We want our community back normal.
Border security a major factor in two majority Latino districts, Eagle Pass and Del Rio, voting red last November. Business owner Leo Martinez is a Democrat who voted for Trump, saying his once 8-hour commute to his factories across the border now takes 20 minutes.
Now, if you look at the border, it's super quiet. The current administration done, it's working.
His daughter voted for Trump, too.
Do you think what happened here with the surge led more people to vote for Trump?
Yes, 100%.
But across the border, President Trump's policy blocking asylum claims also having an impact. Johanna Romero, with her 6-month-old son, saying she's desperate, waiting in Mexico since December. Saying she's fleeing death threats from her baby's father. I was really afraid. It was a very strong threat, she said.
Our thanks to Julia Ainsley for that report. Well, President Trump's policy banning asylum seekers at the border is now being challenged in court and will be heard in November. The lawyers who are suing call the ban extreme. They say it blocks immigrants who are escaping real fear from getting a basic asylum screening, which they argue is their right. All right, let's pivot now for our check on your morning news now weather. It's a chilly fall, rainy morning here in New York and the Northeast and the Mid-Atlantic. We're finally... Who put this in here for me? Living the life of a cold girl.
Oh, you didn't write that?
No. I didn't even see that.
The life of a cold girl. You got to hit it there, Angie Lastman.
We know that read
cold
wasn't
girl.
meant for Joe, don't we? Yeah, guys, it is a little fall-like out there. We've got some rain. It's going to be kind of a soggy commute over the next couple of hours, but we do have improvement on the way as the day goes on. But let's start with what we've got right now. Rain stretched from essentially Maine all the way down through the Mid-Atlantic. We're in and out of these showers. Some of them are going to be some pretty heavy downpours, so that's going to slow you down for sure on this morning's commute. This is associated with a cold front that's sliding a little farther to the south and east as the day goes on. But again, that wet commute on the I-95 corridor is something you want to take note of this morning. The front will move farther to the south and east here as the day goes on, and we'll start to see things drying out. Behind that, we'll be left with some cooler air. So it already feels a little cooler this morning, but we've got a big temperature difference in a whole lot of spots this morning. That autumn chill in place across parts of the Midwest. You can see parts of the Great Lakes as well as the Northeast. We've got these frost advisories, freeze watches, freeze warnings for nearly 30 million people. And when you look at the temperatures right now, they're pretty impressive. 29 degrees in Duluth, extra layers in Minneapolis today. Even Chicago, you're waking up to 50 degrees. I know that's not chilly by any means for where we should be for this time of year, but it's different than what we've had over the past couple of really weeks. So taking note of that as you head out the door, we'll see temperatures kind of landing close to average across the Great Lakes. Detroit tops out at 62. Philadelphia today, 71. So you won't so much as need that layer later. But notice the temperatures across the northern plains. We've got upper 70s. We've got high 70s for Denver. We're running above normal across that region really for the next couple of days. And we've kind of got those mixed highs going for tomorrow as well. When we look ahead to this weekend, it does feel like fall. 63 degrees on Friday in New York City, upper 60s to mid 60s both Saturday and Sunday. We'll keep the mild air in place for Minneapolis, Chicago, still ending up into the 70s in some of those spots. But still feeling a little bit more like fall than we have over the past couple of weeks, guys. I know people are trying to get out there and do some apple picking and all the other activities, and it sure is going to feel nice to do that.
Normal.
I love, yeah,
Normal.
and the rain doesn't stick around too much longer.
So it just cools it down for us.
Yeah, exactly.
The rain surprised me this morning when I was wearing
Did you bring your
sandals.
umbrella?
Nope, and I wore Birkenstocks. So that was
Oh,
great.
boy.
Yeah.
If only I could have told you.
If only I knew Angie. All right, thank you. See you in a little bit.
We do want to look at one of the bigger cases facing the Supreme Court this season, a case that was heard yesterday. It centers on the highly controversial practice of so-called LGBTQ plus conversion therapy. This method, popular in some conservative religious circles, tries to encourage LGBTQ plus youth and adults to identify as heterosexual and pushes transgender youth to identify with the gender identity assigned at birth. It has been widely discredited by the medical community, with many experts calling it harmful.
During oral arguments yesterday, the Supreme Court seemed to be siding with a Christian counselor from Colorado who argues that banning faith-based conversion therapy for kids violated her First Amendment rights. Now, if the court rules in her favor, it could lead to bans being overturned in more than 20 states.
For more, let's bring in NBC News legal analyst Angela Senadella and NBC News medical contributor Dr. Kavita Patel. They're going to help us look at this issue from both a medical and a legal perspective. Angela, let's start with you. This case argued as a First Amendment issue. So what are the main arguments on both sides here?
Good morning, Savannah and Joe. So the biggest question here in front of the court is whether or not this law regulates speech or regulates professional conduct, medical practice. So we have this Christian therapist here, Childs, arguing that all she does in her practice is talk therapy. She does not prescribe medication. She doesn't administer electroshocks. And so as a result, what is being regulated here is just talk. And I want to note that even Justice Kagan here yesterday, a liberal justice, did note that she is only allowed to talk about one side of this issue, in a sense, viewpoint discrimination, and not allowed to help align a teen or a patient with their own biological sex. Now, on the flip side, though, we have Colorado arguing that this is a regulation of medical conduct and that historically states have the total ability to regulate conduct that they consider to be harmful if it is in a medical way. So that is the big question in front of the court today.
Angela, as Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson pointed out during arguments, this case is coming shortly after the court upheld a ban in Tennessee that prohibits some types of gender transition care for young people. So what's different about this new case? Walk us through the changes here and how they both come before the court.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So Justice Jackson did note, how is this different? How can we give states deference in one scenario, but not in another to regulate medical conduct, to regulate therapy in an LGBTQ plus context? But the major difference before the court was that the Tennessee law had to do with physical changes, with physical conduct, with hormone therapy, with puberty blockers. And in that distinction, perhaps the burden on speech is incidental, but is not really the main form of conduct that's being regulated. It's not just talk, it's action that's being regulated in Tennessee.
Dr. Patel, we want to bring you in. As we said in the introduction, but it's worth reiterating, conversion therapy has been widely discredited by the medical community, with many experts calling it harmful. If you talk to someone who's in the LGBTQ plus community, myself included, they will tell you it is innately who you are. Lady Gaga's song Born This Way isn't just a song, it's a reality for people. So help us understand exactly what the research shows when it comes to this therapy. Is there even a standardized approach to it?
Yeah, let's first talk about what the research has shown us. It's overwhelming and it's global. A comprehensive Cornell University review looked at 47 peer-reviewed studies and found zero evidence that any sort of sexual orientation or gender identity could be changed through therapeutic intervention, including studies that documented significant negative psychological outcomes, including increased rates of depression, anxiety, shame, and unfortunately suicidality. So there are not just 47 peer-reviewed studies, but we also have multiple studies that have confirmed that conversion therapy, which doesn't have any standardized set of practices, but conversion therapy that included things like talk therapy, also resulted in concrete evidence of suicidality in LGBTQ plus individuals. So this is not something that is limited to certain practices. This is something that's been studied, and it's been studied and referenced not just by the United States, it's been studied and referenced in the globe with many institutions, including the United Nations, weighing in on that. This is simply a misnomer. To even refer to it as conversion therapy, Joe, is something that we don't even do in medical practice because it implies that there's some substance to it.
Yeah, Dr. Patel, you're just mentioning this, but there's also this recent study from Stanford, more than 4,400 people who underwent conversion therapy, higher rates of depression, PTSD, suicidal thoughts. So this really is also a mental health conversation.
Mm-hmm. It is. It's a mental health conversation. And I think I just want to, because something that Angela mentioned that the Supreme Court just weighed in on verbally, that this didn't constitute anything outside of counseling or talk therapy. By the way, that's medical care. That's mental health care. That's medical care. We don't separate talk therapy or talking to a patient. I talk to patients every single day. I don't think of that as not doing something medical. So I want to just make sure it's very clear that something that has been misconstrued in not just a Supreme Court argument, but in arguments to date. And that, again, these therapies, quote unquote, and I hate using that word, but these horrible things that are done to people include everything from electroconvulsion therapy, which can be used, by the way, in medical settings appropriately. That has been something used to weaponize and kind of prop up conversion practices. But talk therapy is certainly also one of those references that has been stringed to lead to higher suicidality and worsened mental health.
Important conversation. Angela Senadella, Dr. Kavita Patel, thank you both for joining us. And since we did touch on the issue of suicide, it is important to see the Suicide Crisis Lifeline there on your screen. That phone number, 988. All right, much more to come here on Morning News Now, including artificial intelligence now making its mark in the courtroom.
Did it feel like David and Goliath?
It does feel like David and Goliath, except AI is a slingshot.
Later this hour, more on how the technology is being used in place of lawyers and why some experts say it is risky.
Up first, though, the latest on the push for peace in Gaza as Israel commemorates 2 years since the October 7th attacks. We'll be right back. Welcome back. President Trump's peace plan to end the war in Gaza will continue to be negotiated today in Egypt. U.S. envoy Steve Witkoff and the president's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, are expected to take part today. That is day 3 of negotiations as part of the American delegation. Qatar's prime minister and foreign minister are also expected to attend. This is all happening, of course, as Israel marked the 2nd anniversary of the October 7th attacks yesterday. Both Israelis and Gazans have expressed their support for a peace deal, but there are still sticking points for each side here. Let's bring in NBC News international correspondent Matt Bradley. He is in Tel Aviv with the latest. Matt, good morning. So what are we hearing at this point from today's peace talks? And walk us through that American delegation. I mentioned even President Trump's son-in-law is involved.
Yeah, President Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, who, we've gotten used to what looks like the sort of rank nepotism that we saw in President Trump's first term, surrounding himself with family members and friends. But Jared Kushner really is an integral part of this. He was one of the architects of the Abraham Accords, which saw several prominent, very wealthy Gulf Arab countries normalizing their relationships with Israel, their diplomatic relations with Israel back during Trump's first term. It was his signature foreign policy achievement, and he owes a lot to his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, for making that happen. Kushner has also, according to the Wall Street Journal and other publications, been extremely involved in crafting this 20-point plan, which is now the subject of these talks in Egypt. So he's an essential part of this operation. We've heard from the president of Egypt just this morning saying that there's a lot of pressure from President Trump on all the sides to make this work, especially with the deployment of these 2 delegates. As you mentioned, in addition, Steve Witkoff, who's also going, President Trump's top Middle East envoy. So there is an enormous amount of optimism, an enormous amount of pressure, and it looks as though all sides are pushing ahead with trying to make this happen. But there are still a lot of outstanding issues that really need to be bridged in Sharm el-Sheikh in order to make this work. Hamas is giving up all of their leverage when they agreed to release those 20 hostages and the 38 dead hostages. This is something that they are going to be asking for a lot in exchange. And one of the things they want are some high-profile prisoners to be released from Israeli prisons. That's going to be a tough ask for the Israelis.
Matt, yesterday we also spoke right here on this show with Yotam Cohen. He's the brother of a hostage, of Nimrod Cohen, one of the 20 hostages taken on October 7th, who is believed to still be alive. I want to play a little bit about what Yotam had to say about President Trump's peace plan.
In the past week, we've had a lot of hope that President Trump's plan is going to be leading to a permanent deal and to get all the hostages back. Both sides have suffered more than enough.
You spent a lot of time in Hostage Square yesterday. Based on what you heard, do other hostage families appear to feel the same? Are they hopeful about this round of talks?
Yeah, I mean, this is a thorny issue. It's not just as simple as saying, let's just release all the hostages and end the war. For quite a few Israelis, especially those who lean to the right, the hostages' freedom might be secondary to the notion of destroying Hamas completely. And that's certainly what Benjamin Netanyahu has prioritized, the latter, as well as his far-right cabinet ministers. One of the other issues about this 20-point plan is that, it says that if Hamas gives up their weapons, that they will be forgiven. Which is going to be a tough one for a lot of the family members of the hostages, living and dead.
Matt, also, can I ask before I let you go just about what is happening on the ground in Gaza right now as these negotiations play out and as that 2-year anniversary was marked?
Yeah, well, it sounds as though, according to Palestinian health authorities in the Gaza Strip, which is run by Hamas, still that 10 people have been killed just so far today or in the past 24 hours, and dozens more others were injured. Now, this kind of contradicts what we've heard from the IDF, that they are slowing down their military operations in Gaza City or halting them entirely and moving just to a defensive posture. President Trump had told Netanyahu in no uncertain terms to stop bombing the Gaza Strip It looks as though the IDF have not obeyed that directive from the U.S. president. So it looks as though they are doing what Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said they should be doing for the past 2 years, negotiating under fire.
All right, Matt Bradley from Tel Aviv for us. Thank you very much, Matt. Well, now let's get you some other national news. We're going to start with Russian President Vladimir Putin's latest comments on the war in Ukraine. We have NBC News international correspondent Danielle Hamamdin joining us with our world news in 60 seconds. Danielle, good morning.
Good morning, Savannah. On the occasion of his 73rd birthday, Vladimir Putin announced that Russian forces have captured more than 1,900 square miles of land in Ukraine this year alone. Russia already controls nearly 20% of Ukrainian territory. To Ecuador now, where the president's motorcade was attacked by a crowd of people throwing rocks. A high-ranking minister claimed there were also signs of bullet damage on the vehicle and called the incident an assassination attempt. President Daniele Noboa was not injured. 5 people have been detained. And finally, to a story we've been following all week. The 900 or so hikers, guides, and other staff who were stranded by a snowstorm on Mount Everest have now reached safety. This is according to Chinese state media. This puts an end to one of the largest search and rescue operations in the region. And this could have ended very, very badly, you guys, but luckily,
no kidding. Yeah. We had a big conversation about some of that yesterday as well. Danielle, thank you so much. Well, coming up, proof that a little goes a long way when it comes to exercise. When we come back, the new research that shows the big benefits of even the shortest workouts. Our Dr. Azar is in for your weekly checkup next on Morning News Now. It is time now for our weekly medical checkup. We are going to take a look at exercise snacks, what they are, can't wait to find out, and how they can boost your health. Plus, a new study reveals a possible link between sweet drinks, sodas, juices, that kind of stuff, and liver disease. Joining us now and more on this, our friend, NBC News medical contributor, Dr. Natalie Azar. Dr. Azar, good to have you with us as always. Okay, so first, let's actually start with one that we teased a moment ago. This is exercise snacks. Or short bursts of physical activity that can kind of actually be super good for you, boost your fitness in some way. So it's not like eating. It means like a little snack of exercise.
Definitions first, right? So in our constant endeavor to try to find the least amount of work that can pay off, they have coined this term. I love this researchers, these exercise snacks, which are short but very deliberate bursts of physical activity, 5 minutes or less, twice a day, 3 to 7 days a week. What did they found? It found that people who were generally inactive, it actually improved physical fitness in inactive adults. If you were less than 65 years old, it improved your cardiorespiratory status. And if you were older than 65, it improved your muscle endurance. So doctors' orders are, guess what? You can't say that you don't have time anymore. Right. Because 5 minutes twice a day, I think we all do have time, and move when and where you can. So it doesn't mean that you need to drive to a gym and work out for 5 minutes. We're talking about going upstairs for 5 minutes or doing jumping jacks or doing some sort of physical activity. I love it. I think it's kind of cool. And it kind of motivates people. It's a starting point. Once you start doing that, you can start adding on to it.
I feel like I do have an excuse, though, because like running up the stairs even for 5 minutes, then you get all sweaty and then we have to be on TV.
No, that's a big old fat no.
How'd I do? Okay.
That's why you have hair and makeup.
Let's talk about the drinks one and liver disease.
Yes. So this one, unfortunately, if you're paying attention to the news, you might have been hearing us talking over the last several years that diet soda may not be as healthy a substitute for sugary drinks as we once thought. Yeah. So in this particular study, they were interested in looking at whether or not the consumption of sugary beverages versus low or non-sugared beverages, i.e. artificial sweetened beverages, increase the risk of liver disease. And they found that, in fact, it can. There was a 60% increase in liver disease if you consumed non-sweetened beverages, artificially sweetened beverages, and a 50% increase in liver disease with sugary beverages. If you replaced those beverages with water, it reduced the risk. So doctors' orders are limit your sweet drinks and swap for water.
I used to drink a lot of regular Coke. And I don't anymore.
Yeah, no,
I'm
neither is
like,
good
water,
for you. And
water,
it was
water.
as little as 1 can a day. And I just think I just think it's kind of interesting that they think the theory behind it is that diet sodas can like upset your microbiome, which can cause insulin resistance and like do this whole thing.
Right.
Yeah,
It's not just like, oh, it's the sugar's gone or whatever. Yeah, really. I tell my husband that all the time.
Yep.
Okay, this is so interesting to me because this is so true. I am seeing these IV spas all over the place. There's I get hit on Instagram all the time with ads even for people to come to your home to give you an IV drip for hydration or for alertness or for a hangover. But there's not a lot of regulation here. It is kind of crazy if you think about it.
It is kind of crazy if you think about it. So first of all, there is little scientific evidence that any of these spas are doing anything that is truly medically beneficial to you. There's virtually no federal regulation. States do all of the regulation for these particular spas, and it can be a danger to consumers. For example, infected equipment or, purporting to do something beneficial for you. So my doctor's orders are, you need to find out who owns the spa. Is there a licensed medical professional on staff? And look for credentials. And always be wary of being sold a cure for something without a lot of evidence or science to back it up.
So true. I'm like,
Save
there's
your money.
no way that's really going to turn around
a
hangover or something that way. All right. By the way, how cool does Dr. Azar look today?
Is that what you were staring at when you threw me off my?
Sorry. No,
Thank you.
The shirt, the
I'm trying to
necklace. I love
pretend
the
I'm your
whole thing.
age, which we don't
Dr.
really know.
Azar, we love you. Thank you for coming.
You're welcome.
Okay, we're back now with a look, or now we're going to take a look at how artificial intelligence is making its way into the courtroom, replacing legal professionals. Some people are turning to AI bots to help them draft motions, even file appeals. And as NBC News Now anchor Gotti Schwartz explains, it's leading to surprises and some very real risks.
All over it. In Southern California, 72-year-old Lynn White was on her own after losing an eviction trial. Facing $70,000 in fines and back rent with no money for an appeals lawyer, she needed a miracle.
This AI tool, it is beyond comprehension.
She found ChatGPT and used it to do the work that would have cost thousands from a trained lawyer.
It was very helpful. It pointed me to the statutes.
At what point did you stop using the lawyer and just start using AI?
In post, I saw that I can handle this appeal on my own. AI was helping me draft the motions and the briefs.
That's not to say the AI was perfect. She says sometimes a program created hallucinations, legal citations to help her case that don't actually exist.
That's the thing with large language models, they are not tethered to the truth.
Damien Charlatan is a legal researcher in Paris. His database of AI hallucinations shows hundreds have already made it into U.S. courts.
Smith versus Johnson sounds like a case name. And for the AI, it's enough that it sounds like its case name, regardless of whether it is an actual case.
Then Lynn showed us her hacks to avoid hallucinations, pitting AI engines like Perplexity against ChatGPT.
We're in ChatGPT right now. It uses this case as a citation, and then I would go over to Perplexity.
So you're using one AI to fact check another AI?
I am.
In the terms of service for the AI program she uses, it states they should not be used as substitutes for a qualified professional, but Lynn is a believer.
If it wasn't for ChatGPT, I would have given up.
And in her case, that virtual legal assistant had a real Perry Mason moment.
What was the outcome?
The outcome was good for me, bad for the plaintiff.
Do you think you could have done it without AI?
Absolutely not.
Armed only with arguments shaped by AI, Lynn notching a win. The judgment against her overturned for now.
Did it feel like David and Goliath?
It does feel like David and Goliath, except AI is a slingshot.
Gotti Schwartz, NBC News, Los Angeles.
What a way to put it. AI is a slingshot. Coming up on Morning News Now, from the factory to the football field.
Your hands are touching every football that's played with.
It's a neat thing just to know that I had part of that.
Up next, we're going to get a behind-the-scenes look with the folks who sew together every NFL football by hand. We will be right back. Welcome back. Let's get to what is making money headlines this morning. All that glitters is $4,000 gold.
CNBC's Frank Holland joins us with that and some other Wall Street happenings. Frank, good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. It is all about gold on Wall Street today. That's one of the things that we're following. Gold right now at a record high. A big story on Wall Street, and it's just marching higher this morning. It smashed through the $4,000 an ounce level for the first time yesterday. Still rising this morning, up over 1% last time I checked. Investors are piling in to the so-called safe haven asset as they seek to cover from geopolitical worries, while also betting on more interest rate cuts by the Federal Reserve. Gold prices are up more than 50% this year, after climbing more than 25% just last year. Meta is updating Facebook's algorithm to give users more control over which videos they see. You can now select not interested on a reel or flag a comment, prompting the algorithm to adapt based on your feedback. The Save feature has also been updated to make it easier to collect your favorite reels and posts all in one place. These changes, they could help address complaints from users about content they feel is either scammy, annoying, or filled with low-quality AI-generated videos. And California is banning loud commercials on Netflix, Hulu, and other streaming platforms. Governor Newsom signing a new law requiring the volume of ads to match the audio level of shows or movies that you're already watching. This law goes into effect next July. It's modeled after the Commercial Ad Loudness Mitigation Act, or CALM, which bars TV ads from being broadcast louder than real programs. I don't know about you guys. I like this because sometimes you just leave a show on and all of a sudden the ad's just like booming out of your TV and you're just like, well, where'd that come from?
Yeah.
It's the bipartisan issue of our times.
Yeah.
One of the few. One of the few.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
With pro football season in full swing now, we're giving you an inside look at the factory where they make every single football game used in every NFL game. NBC's Kaylee Hartung traveled to a small town in Ohio where men and women hand-stitch each one, keeping a century-old tradition alive.
In a small Ohio town, there's a small factory where you'll find more than 100 people cutting, sewing, and lacing.
This is a one-stop shop for every football used in an NFL game.
Yeah.
How many footballs are you all producing in a day, in a year?
Capabilities are about 2,500 footballs a day, which comes out to a little over 500,000 footballs each year. For the NFL, we're sending them about 30,000 footballs.
Casey Patton is the Wilson plant manager, overseeing the operation where every single NFL football is made by hand. While the game has evolved over the years with new helmets, different uniforms, turf fields, the football remains unchanged.
Why, in a world of modernization and technology every day, is it important to you all to keep doing this by hand?
It's the craftsmanship, it's the quality. 100% of the balls that we manufacture are quality inspected to make sure that we're not sending anything out that is a lower quality product. It's a tough product to automate. It's the craftsmen and women of the factory here that make it.
If you were walking a ball through this factory to get one made, how long does that take, soup to nuts?
Probably take me 20 minutes to get a ball through the factory.
It might take me a little longer.
Might take you a little bit longer.
Can we go make a football?
Let's do it.
There are 18 meticulous steps to putting together a football. First, the leather cowhide.
Our main goal is to utilize this leather as much as possible.
Panel one. Okay. How'd I do?
Great.
Pretty good match.
You got a good start.
From cutting and placing decals to lacing and sewing, I got to do it all.
Looky there, you're doing it. And you make it look so easy.
It is.
Well, I've been doing this for 30 years. There's a big difference between 1 minute and 30 years.
Yeah.
Paying close attention to detail and craftsmanship necessary for each football.
You are one of just 2 people responsible for sewing NFL footballs together?
Yes.
How much pride do you take in that?
The lady that trained me to do this worked here for 48 years. So, I mean, I felt like I was coming in and had these really big shoes to fill. She put so much heart and soul into this job.
Incredible. And how long have you been doing this job?
10 years now.
Your hands are touching every football that's played with.
It's a neat thing just to know that I had part of that.
Do you notice when you're watching football on TV?
Yeah. I always say, what if that was mine?
The last step, quality control, to make sure every football meets the strict NFL standards.
So both of your ends are pretty good, but it's got a little bit of a wave to it.
Is that good or bad?
That's not good.
Oh.
My football may not be game ready, But after all that hard work, I thought I'd get a second opinion from another expert, Buffalo Bills quarterback Josh Allen.
I made it.
Oh, did you really?
I did.
Oh,
Put it together. Look at that.
Nice.
Could you give it a toss and tell me how it feels?
Yeah, good. Run around, Joe Brady. Spin. It's right-handed football.
I made it just for you.
With the reigning MVP's approval, I'll never look at a football the same way again. Crafting footballs by hand, a time-honored tradition, as American as Sunday Night Football.
Mine would be
Pretty
like
cool.
square.
Oh, that one was cool. That said Today Show. Yeah, I know, totally.
Our thanks to Kaylee Hartung for that report. All right, coming up, we've got a heartfelt homecoming proposal that's winning hearts on social media.
Up next, how a special childhood friendship led to this memorable moment that's now gone viral. You're watching Morning News Now. We're going to end this hour in Missouri, where a viral homecoming invite is racking up millions of views online and melting hearts nationwide.
NBC Nightly News anchor Tom Yamas has the story of one very special proposal.
Freshman Nevaeh Hall was so excited about homecoming, she had to run. Right into the arms of her date, Wesley Lowry. The two, friends since the first grade.
We're really close. Like, she says that I'm her boyfriend, and because we got so close, I just really want to keep the friendship.
So tell me how you got the idea to invite her to homecoming.
Well, this would be her first time at like a homecoming function, and I just wanted to give her a night to remember.
So after a game, Wesley, a wide receiver on the Cassville High School football team, carried a sign and surprised Nevaeh, who was with her cheerleading squad. Nevaeh, what did you think when Wesley asked you to homecoming?
What did you think, baby? Were you happy?
Yes.
You excited?
Yes.
Yes.
Stephen, what did you think?
Oh, I thought it was a very nice young man to do that. Anything that puts a tear in my daughter's eye out of happiness, it really means a lot to me.
The videos going viral on social media. One person posting, "Your mom raised a great guy." Wesley, what have you learned from being friends with Nevaeh for so long?
That Nevaeh is a very loving and caring person, and she'll do almost anything to keep a friendship.
A lasting friendship, giving us all a reason to smile.
All right, too sweet. Our thanks to Tom Yamas for that touching story.
That is going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now.
Stay with us, though. The news continues right now. Good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm Savannah Sellers.
I'm Joe Fryer. Right now on Morning News Now, politics and prosecutions. Former FBI Director James Comey in federal court today after a campaign against him by President Trump. Well, Comey is set to be arraigned on a pair of charges stemming from allegations that he lied to Congress. We're going to break down what's at stake in the political firestorm engulfing the nation's capital. Shutdown week 2. The federal government shutdown rolling into day 8. With no real end in sight, traveling Americans are now starting to see some trouble in the skies. What passengers need to know about the crippling staffing shortages that could cause major delays at airports nationwide. Also this morning, we're diving into the concerning rise of so-called digital masculinity content online and the exploding role that some big influencers now play in shaping many teens' ideas of what it means to be a man. Plus, it's out with the old, new, and in with the old. Why more and more members of Gen Z are ditching the glitz of modern tech in favor of something a little more retro. CDs, cassettes, flip phones.
Vinyl records,
it's all coming back. I feel like the 90s and my childhood are being relived. All right, let's begin this hour with the arraignment of former FBI Director James Comey. He's due in court this morning following his indictment last month.
Yeah, Comey was charged on 2 counts, making a false statement and then also obstruction of a political proceeding. They relate to testimony Comey gave during a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing back in 2020. Well, ahead of that indictment, President Trump had been publicly pressuring his Attorney General, Pam Bondi, and the Department of Justice to go after Comey and other political adversaries. Now, Comey denies any wrongdoing. In a few moments, we're going to chat with our legal analyst, Misty Maris. But before that, let's get to NBC News Chief Justice Justice and National Affairs correspondent Kelly O'Donnell. She's outside the courthouse where this is happening in Alexandria, Virginia. Kelly, good morning.
Good morning. This initial court appearance for James Comey is expected to be brief. The bigger significance is the context in which this all happened. The top U.S. attorney in this area was fired, replaced by a White House aide who had never been a prosecutor. And of course, the president has made it clear publicly for a long time that he wants investigations against his perceived political enemies, including James Comey. Once the leader of the nation's premier law enforcement agency, then a frequent target of President Trump's fury.
Comey's a crooked guy. He has been for years. And he got caught. Look, he lied.
Former FBI Director James Comey, today taking on a very different role as defendant, facing 2 federal charges, making a false statement and obstruction of a congressional proceeding. In a video post after his indictment, Comey defended himself.
I'm innocent. So let's have a trial and keep the faith.
Comey is accused of lying to Congress during video testimony when he denied authorizing a leak to news media. The issue involved a probe of the Clinton Foundation, not past investigations of President Trump. Politics and prosecutions fueled a contentious hearing with Attorney General Pam Bondi.
Don't you ever challenge my integrity. I have abided by every ethics standard.
Bondi refused to discuss any White House involvement in the case against Comey.
I'd like to know from you what conversations you've had with President Trump about the indictment of James Comey.
I am not going to discuss any conversations I have or have not had with the President of the United States.
See that?
Senate Democrats displayed the president's social media post addressed to Pam and urging action against his political rivals, posted 5 days before Comey's indictment.
President Trump is the most transparent president in American history. And I don't think he said anything that he hasn't said for years.
The Attorney General also refused to answer Democrats' questions about the firing of career prosecutors and FBI agents. But Tennessee Republican Marsha Blackburn applauded the terminations.
I am pleased that you are cleaning house.
Republicans supportive of changes made by Bondi argue that the DOJ and FBI had been politicized and weaponized against conservatives and Republicans, leading to the prosecution of President Trump. This Comey case, in many ways, will be a test of this new era.
All right, Kelly, thank you so much. Let's bring in Misty Maris for some legal analysis. So first off, let's just start with what we can expect today in arraignment. Not a long process. What will we see?
It's very procedural. Comey will come in, the charges will be read, his attorney will enter an appearance, and he will enter a plea. It's going to be not guilty. But one thing we will get some insight into is next steps, timeline, next appearance, and any challenges the defense may raise to this indictment.
One of the things that Comey's legal team could do here is move to dismiss the case. This would be specifically on the grounds of selective or vindictive prosecution. Help us understand what that means and what the bar is for that.
It is an incredibly difficult bar for a defendant to establish that. There's a presumption in favor of prosecutors. There's broad prosecutorial discretion to bring cases. So the defense has to present evidence to overcome that, basically showing that they were targeted for exercising a legal right. Here it would be speaking out against the administration. There's political animus motivating this, and that he's being treated differently than others. But from a defense perspective, it's usually very difficult to have any evidence of that because it's not in the public sphere. It's something that may be in back channels, why a prosecution was brought, the intention. Here, you got to do a simple Google search, and you're going to have enough to lay out at least a cognizable argument to support that, and then couple that with the timing, the removal of the Attorney General Seibert, replacement, and all of that will form that narrative. Whether it's successful, it's still an uphill battle, but it's better odds than most in this situation.
If it's not dismissed and this does go to trial, what do you expect to be the major arguments from both the prosecution and the defense?
So keep in mind the standards. So there has to be a false statement. It has to be materially false, meaning it matters, and knowingly false, so an intention to lie. with all that in mind, this is a bit of a convoluted case. You're going to see the defense really focus on that. It's 2020 testimony, that's the basis, where Comey says, I'm going to rely on my 2017 testimony. So now we're going back and we're looking at what were precisely the questions, what were precisely the answers. It's not sloppy answers, ambiguous questions that can formulate this. There has to be that intention to lie while under oath. So that's going to be where the defense goes. Prosecutors are going to be trying to keep it simple. They hate convoluted cases. They hate having to jump through those hoops. So I expect to see that being capitalized on the defense. It's really not an easy open and shut case.
All right, Misty Maris, thank you so much.
Thank you. A lot with you this morning. We appreciate it. We're now in day 8 of the federal government shutdown. This morning, growing signs of trouble in the air, with the FAA warning that a growing number of airports could delays as now some controllers are calling out sick. Meanwhile, House Speaker Mike Johnson says he is open to the idea of providing emergency pay to some government employees working currently without that pay. NBC News senior correspondent Tom Costello tells us the aviation side of the shutdown.
Hey, Savannah and Joe, good morning. At this very moment, we have no significant delays in the National Airspace System, the NAS, as the FAA calls it. That said, it is becoming clear that at least some of the controllers who are calling out sick are doing so in protest over the idea that they should be working without a paycheck. And so we now have a statement from the union to its membership saying the following. It says NATCA, which is the union, does not endorse, support, or condone any federal employees participating in or endorsing a coordinated activity that negatively affects the capacity of the NAS or that undermines the professional image and reputation of the people we represent. Keep in mind, it is illegal for air traffic controllers to go on strike in a coordinated action. That said, it appears now that, in fact, this government shutdown is impacting the ability of the nation to travel. This morning, the FAA's list of airports on the watch list for staffing-related challenges includes some of the busiest in the country, experiencing delays yesterday. Boston, Newark, Chicago O'Hare, and Nashville, where the FAA reduced traffic yesterday and issued a brief ground stop overnight.
We are currently in a ground stop. I'll get you moving soon as I can.
Also, Indianapolis, Dallas, Houston, Albuquerque, Phoenix, and Denver affected on Monday. The reason, the existing shortage of air traffic controllers, now aggravated by some controllers calling out sick amid the shutdown stress.
They'll eventually be paid, but the shutdown is forcing them to work without the guarantee that their paychecks come in a timely manner. So they're stressed.
The controllers union insists this is not an organized walkout, but one controller tells NBC News, at my area, the staffing is awful. Every facility is short-staffed. Does it feel like your controllers are almost pawns in this political game here?
Air traffic controllers and aviation safety professionals have continued to be the political pawns in a government shutdown.
Also working without pay, the FBI, DEA, Border Patrol, and ICE officers, Coast Guardsmen and women, and 2 million members of the military. The Speaker of the House now suggesting he's open to finding emergency pay for at least some of them.
Yeah, we're monitoring it day by day. I'm certainly open to that.
While the president is blaming the air travel impact on Democrats.
Oh, sure. I mean, it's they're all Democrat delays.
He is also suggesting government workers who are furloughed may not receive back pay when the shutdown is over.
It really depends on who you're talking about. But for the most part, we're going to take care of our people. There are some people that really don't deserve to be taken care of, and we'll take care of them in a different way.
Again, it is law that any employee who is furloughed must receive compensation, back pay, when the government shutdown ends. It's also illegal for air traffic controllers to go on strike in a coordinated action. But if we see, in fact, more and more controllers starting to individually call out sick, we could see delays continue to grow. And we're about a month away from, of course, the Thanksgiving travel period. Joe and Savannah, back to you.
All right, Tom, thank you so much. Let's now bring in NBC News Chief Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles. Ryan, good morning. Always great to have you with us. So lawmakers remain deadlocked more than a week into this shutdown now, continuing to point fingers, blame each other, each party saying it's the other's fault. Now, the Senate keeps voting on competing funding bills, doesn't have support in the chamber. Where are we at this point in terms of ending this shutdown? Any sign that there is going to be some bipartisan agreement?
No. That's the short answer, Savannah.
Thank you, Ryan.
I mean, they really have not made any progress. I mean, there are these kind of sidecar conversations with some bipartisan lawmakers. There was a dinner last night, but none of it has reached the leadership level. The two sides are very much entrenched in their previous positions that basically got us into this shutdown. The only thing that I would say is even slightly different is that prior to the shutdown, Republicans weren't even interested in talking about health care in any sort of meaningful way. You're starting to see the slow creep of them introducing a health care argument into the conversation, but they're still insistent that that real negotiation can't happen until after the shutdown ends. So we're still basically in the same place we were before this whole thing started.
And perhaps the Republican who's talking most about health care is Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene's been very vocal about her concerns during the shutdown and those premiums going up. We mentioned yesterday how she seems to be breaking with fellow Republicans when it comes to this issue. You actually spoke with her one-on-one. What did you learn?
Yeah, it was a pretty wide-ranging interview, Joe, and if we thought that she was going to back away from those comments that she made on social media from the night before, we were definitely wrong. She doubled down. She truly believes that her party is handling this situation incorrectly. She believes that health care is a real crisis in this country, and the time to talk about it is now. Listen to what she told me.
This is the number one issue I hear about in my district. Health insurance premiums are unaffordable, not only for people on the ACA, but also families, maybe small business owners that buy their own health insurance. And with the cost of living today, I think it's reached a boiling point. I am personally against the government shutdown. I really want to be doing appropriations. I believe in that process. That's our job, bringing taxpayer dollars back to our districts that help our communities, roads, water projects, you name it.
And a couple of other ways that she's breaking with her party on this particular issue. She disagrees with Speaker Mike Johnson. She thinks the House should be in session right now negotiating this issue. She also thinks that the Senate, if they can pass judges with a straight party line vote, should also be able to vote on a straight party line vote to open up the government, suggesting they should go nuclear, as it says, and break the filibuster to get the government back open.
Ryan, there are concerns here regarding back pay for furloughed workers. We've got this draft White House memo arguing that those workers are actually not entitled to back pay. What are Republicans saying about this?
Well, it's interesting how Republicans are kind of messing with this issue, for lack of a better way to describe it, really using it as a negotiating tactic. We saw the Senate Majority Leader John Thune and Mike Johnson, the House Speaker, suggest that somehow the law isn't clear as to whether or not these furloughed workers will deserve back pay after the shutdown ends. Both of them voted for the law back in 2018 that made it assured that these federal workers would get their back pay once the shutdown ended. I really believe that this isn't a real issue. It's just an intimidation tactic by the White House. There's a myriad number of reasons why these federal workers will get that back pay once the shutdown ends. The law is pretty clear on this. Even if there is a small loophole in the law, Congress could easily fix that in whatever continuing resolution or spending plan they pass. And then there would also be a court challenge to prevent them from not getting this money. The layoff threat, that is a real one. That's something federal workers certainly have to worry about. But whether or not they're going to get paid after the shutdown ends, I just don't think that there's a real, any degree of substance behind that threat from the White House, guys.
All right, Ryan, thank you very much.
This morning, members of the Texas National Guard are now staging at an Army Reserve base outside of Chicago. That's despite objections and concerns raised by local officials. The move by the Trump administration is the latest in what the White House is calling a crime crackdown in Democrat-led cities in the U.S. Officials in Illinois and also Oregon are trying to block these deployments in court. NBC News Chief White House correspondent Peter Alexander joins us now with the latest. Peter, good morning.
Joe, good morning. President Trump claims Democratic-led cities need the military to restore order, even though federal law generally bars troops from law enforcement duties. The president overnight appearing to re-up his threat of invoking the Insurrection Act over the objection of local leaders in those states like Illinois and Oregon, posting a 60-year-old letter from the last time the federal government took that extraordinary step without a state's approval.
This morning, the build-up. National Guard troops from Texas now on the ground just outside Chicago. Part of a mobilization ordered by President Trump, the state's governor has denounced as an unconstitutional invasion.
If you look at Chicago, Chicago's a great city where there's a lot of crime. And if the governor can't do the job, we'll do the job.
Chicago's Democratic Mayor Brandon Johnson condemned what he called the president's war on his city.
This is about authoritarianism. It's about stoking fear.
FBI Director Kash Patel in Chicago overnight describing the agency's role in the president's crackdown.
President Trump sent us into these cities quietly to set the stage, to set up for the National Guard.
As President Trump's Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem traveled to Portland, Oregon, another repeated Trump target, overnight sharply criticizing the city's elected officials.
One of the things I've been dealing with all day here in Portland is a bunch of pansies that are elected into political office who won't make a decision to keep their citizens safe.
Local leaders, including Oregon's Democratic governor who met with Noem, say the chaos has been confined to a single city block in front of an ICE facility.
We're hearing from the federal administration that this is a war zone in front of this facility. It's simply not true.
With the courts so far blocking the president's efforts to deploy troops to Democratic-led cities, President Trump is now threatening to invoke the Insurrection Act to send those troops in to crack down on unrest without states' approval. Some Republicans welcomed the idea.
He's well within his rights to do so. And I think it's a good idea to help local law enforcement get crime under control.
While others are expressing reservations.
So I think that's an overreach. I don't believe any reasonable person thinks that that was ever the intent of the Insurrection Act.
That, of course, the Republican from North Carolina, Senator Thom Tillis. So what happens now? We may get more clarity as soon as tomorrow. That's when the Trump administration is going to go before an appeals court looking to allow the National Guard to deploy to Portland. Also tomorrow, Illinois and Chicago, they will have their case heard as they sue to stop the federalizing of troops from their state and from Texas. Joe.
All right, Peter, thank you so much.
Now let's get you over to weather with our meteorologist, Angie Lassman.
Yeah, it's the fall edition of your Morning News Now forecast. Angie, good morning.
Hi, guys. Good morning to you. Finally feeling like fall in a couple of spots. You're exactly right, but we've also got some rain to deal with this morning, specifically draped across the northeast. So let's check out where the heaviest of it is right now. Maine stretching down to essentially the mid-Atlantic. We've seen some of these showers working through New York, parts of Boston, and this is going to remain a little soggy here, at least for the morning. A little bit of a slower go is going to be necessary. We're going to watch this front, though, kind of sink farther to the east and south, and that leaves us with a drying trend as we get into the second half of the day. So we'll get rid of the rain. You'll need the umbrella for the early morning hours, but then later today and heading into tomorrow will be quite dry. Now, behind the front, yes, it'll be dry, but we're also going to be seeing some of that cooler air kind of filter in, and it's prompting plenty of these advisories and watches this morning. We've got 29 million people under a frost advisory, freeze watch, or freeze warning, and it extends across parts of the Northeast, the Great Lakes, and the Midwest. And that's because our temperatures are sitting into the 20s in some of these spots like Duluth, or low to mid 30s in places like Green Bay. We've got 40s for Minneapolis, Chicago at 49 degrees right now. So calling for that extra layer before you head out the door this morning. By later this afternoon, some spots are going to be above normal. Some are going to be closer to normal. One of those locations closer to normal is going to be across the Great Lakes. So Detroit, Cincinnati, you're into the 60s and 70s. That's right, really where you should be for this time of year. Not the case across the plains, where we're going to be running above normal with temperatures well into the 70s for a good chunk of that area, and even potentially into the 80s for some spots as we get into tomorrow. We keep the mixed highs going all the way into this weekend, but we'll feel a little more like fall. So 68 degrees on Friday in Chicago. We're back to the mid-70s by the time we wrap up the weekend. In New York City, we kind of hover into the 60s, and we'll still see some 70s sprinkled in there for places like Richmond and Lexington as we get through our weekend. As we look ahead to the weekend in the plains, a different story. It's upper 80s, mid 80s. We're feeling more like summer still for our friends there. 87 degrees in Tyler. We've got Lubbock topping out near 90 on Sunday. So no relief in sight for our friends there. And of course, we got to talk about the tropics just quickly, guys. We have a whole lot of activity going on. You can see there's a couple of systems out in parts of the Pacific. We've got Tropical Storm Octave, where that's going to move away. We've got Tropical Disturbance 90E. It does have a good chance of developing. We'll watch to see what happens with that. One area in the Gulf of Mexico, potentially some slow development there. Not too concerned about that at this moment. And then we, of course, have Tropical Storm Jerry. That could potentially leave us with some rain chances and some unsettled weather for parts of the Leeward Islands. And then there's Hurricane Priscilla. This is into the eastern Pacific. Notice it's Category 1, and then it'll continue to weaken. But as it moves up the Baja Coast, it kind of shoves plenty of moisture into parts of the Southwest. So we'll watch for the flooding concerns for our friends there as they pick up multiple inches of rain. So significant flooding will be possible thanks to Priscilla through the weekend.
They don't need floods, but they do need some rain.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
Thanks, Angie. Appreciate it.
Thank you. There's much more to come on this hour of Morning News Now. A little later, we'll dig into some new research that's shining a light on how much influence those controversial so-called digital masculinity creators now have over many teen boys online.
First, after the break, prayers for Dolly, the health of the country queen thrown into question on the heels of a Facebook post from Parton's own sister. Got more on that next. We're back now with new concerns over the health of music icon Dolly Parton. Music world and fans were shocked yesterday when Parton's sister asked for prayers for the country star. Well, it does seem that Dolly is okay. This all comes after some canceled appearances amid a tough year for the country legend.
Dolly, you're the man, you're the man.
This morning, fans are rallying around Dolly Parton as the 79-year-old country music legend faces health challenges. Yesterday, Parton's sister Frida posted on Facebook that she had been, quote, up all night praying for her sister who hasn't been feeling her best. Frida asked all of the world that loves her to be prayer warriors and pray with me. Fans are responding with an outpouring of love and concern. Frida later wrote, quote, I didn't mean to scare anyone or make it sound so serious, adding that Dolly has been a little under the weather.
Heaven, let your light shine.
But it comes just over a week after Dolly Parton postponed her upcoming shows in Las Vegas, writing, I have been dealing with some health challenges and my doctors tell me that I must have a few procedures.
Dollywood, it's me. I know, I'm here, and you're there, and you're wondering why that is?
Earlier this month, Parton, while doing a planned appearance at her theme park Dollywood remotely, explained she couldn't travel because of an infection from kidney stones.
Greedy politicians.
Throughout her legendary career, Parton has never seemed to stop working, giving today a tour of Dollywood just a few months ago.
I thought, well, I would love to have something wonderful in my home area for my people.
But it's been a tough year for the superstar. In March, she faced the death of her beloved husband, Carl Dean, reflecting a few months later on today.
It's a big adjustment, just trying to change patterns and habits, and I'll do fine, and I'm very involved in my work, and that's been the best thing that could happen to me.
Dolly has always made her work her focus.
I just want to be able to lift up people if I can and do something, put some joy out there.
Recently reflecting on her journey at the Country Music Hall of Fame.
It's a long way from the top of the Smoky Mountains to the top of the world.
And reassuring her fans last week, God hasn't said anything about stopping yet. Dolly has indicated she's going to keep working on her many projects from Nashville. Also said she does hope to make her way east to Dollywood as soon as she can.
Well, we are thinking about her. All right, now let's get to what's making headlines around the world this morning. Another aid flotilla bound for Gaza has been intercepted by Israel.
NBC News international correspondent Danielle Hamamjian joins us now with our world news in 60 seconds. Danielle, good morning.
Good morning, you guys. The coalition behind the latest convoy says it was intercepted by Israeli forces in international waters. The Israeli Foreign Ministry said on X the passengers are safe, have been transferred to an Israeli port, and are expected to be deported promptly. To Western Germany now, where a newly elected mayor is in critical condition after being stabbed repeatedly outside her home. 57-year-old Iris Stolzer, mother of two teenagers, is now fighting for her life, but police say there is currently no evidence this was a politically motivated crime. And finally, leaving you with some good, wholesome news out of Argentina. Southern right whales were once almost extinct. They survived, and this year they're back in even greater numbers. An absolute delight for tourists, as you can imagine. Their population over time, 100,000 down to just 600, and these days back up to nearly 5,000. Keep it up, you guys. They're doing great.
Wow,
been moving in the right direction.
Yes, awesome. All right, thank you so much. Well, coming up, the concerning rise in those convincing AI deepfake videos, now reaching one of America's most beloved late actors.
After the break, they're shocking viral shorts depicting an artificial Robin Williams, and it's all got Williams' own daughter speaking out. That's up next.
We are back now with a closer look at what's making news in the world of politics this morning. And we're going to start with the Supreme Court's apparent skepticism over a conversion therapy ban in Colorado that could have national implications.
NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Julie Sirkin is in Washington with the latest. Julie, good morning.
Hey guys, good morning. We begin here in Washington, where yesterday the conservative majority Supreme Court seemed open to siding with a challenge to a Colorado law banning so-called conversion therapy. The state currently doesn't allow psychotherapists to conduct the controversial practice. The purpose of conversion therapy is to change the sexual orientation or gender identity of a minor. Conservatives on the court seem to side with the Christian licensed counselor who challenged the law on free speech grounds. The Trump administration also backs the challenge, and a ruling is expected by the end of June next year. Switching gears to Tennessee, Matt Van Epps, he's a former state official. Well, he won the GOP nomination Tuesday in the special election for Tennessee's 7th congressional district House seat after securing President Trump's endorsement last week. Van Epps beat 10 other GOP candidates, all of them saying they ran with Trump's support, but Van Epps was the only one who got the president's backing. And back to D.C., specifically to the Capitol, House Speaker Mike Johnson says he's not planning to swear in Democrats' newest Congresswoman-elect from Arizona, Adelina Grijalva, until the government reopens. Speaking yesterday with reporters, Johnson said the delay has nothing to do with Jeffrey Epstein. Remember, Democrats have tried accused him of trying to delay a vote to force the administration to release the Epstein files. So once the Congresswoman-elect is sworn in, Grijalva would be signature number 218, that's the key one, on a bipartisan discharge petition to force Johnson's hand on the files. And that is a look at what is making news in politics this morning. Savannah, Joe?
All right, Julie, thank you so much.
We're taking a closer look this morning at a growing concern, the use of artificial intelligence to generate deepfake videos. The daughter of beloved late comedian Robin Williams is the latest to speak out. She's blasting videos that use the likeness of people, from celebrities like her father to politicians. Those videos make it look like people are saying or doing things they never actually said or did. NBC News correspondent Liz Kreutz joins us with more on this. Liz, good morning.
Hey, Joe, good morning. Well, Zelda Williams' comments are getting a lot of attention. She wrote a lengthy post on her Instagram telling people that these videos of her dad are not what he would have wanted. And this comes as OpenAI has unveiled an updated AI video generating app, bringing the ability to create deepfakes to the masses.
I know that voice in your head that's saying you don't have it in you. I have it too sometimes.
The real Robin Williams never said this or this.
Somewhere in heaven there's a booking agent going, he's available Thursday, but only as a hologram.
This isn't him either.
Welcome back to the Cloud9 podcast.
They're all fake. To casual viewers, they might seem funny or even inspiring. But Robin Williams' youngest daughter, Zelda, isn't laughing, pleading on social media for people to stop making and sending her these clips. If you've got any decency, just stop doing this to him and to me, to everyone even, she writes. It's dumb, it's a waste of time and energy, and believe me, it's not what he'd want. Robin Williams died by suicide in 2014 after suffering from depression and dementia. Many of the fake Williams videos were created using OpenAI's tool Sora. A spokesperson for the company says for public figures who are recently deceased, authorized representatives or owners of their estate can request that their likeness not be used in Sora cameos.
There is really nothing across the board that would prevent someone from using imagery and sharing it on social media if it's not in a intentionally harmful context.
But Sora is just one of many AI generators driving an explosion of celebrity deepfakes.
All you have to do is click the button below.
From Taylor Swift to Steven Spielberg, even a fake Al Roker. While tools exist to identify fakes like these, experts say the solution lies in regulating human behavior.
It's not about shutting down the technology. It's about making sure that we consider how the technology is used and who is being hurt.
Zelda Williams' critique comes as AI-generated performers, like the fabricated actress Tilly Norwood, threaten creative professions. The Screen Actors Guild warns AI is using stolen performances to put actors out of work, jeopardizing performer livelihoods and devaluing human artistry.
The difference between a tornado and divorce in the South, nothing. Someone's losing a trailer.
Artists like the real Robin Williams, whose genius meant so much to so many.
Now, aside from just making those statements, it's unclear if they can do anything more, the family, if they could take legal action. We've reached out to representatives for Zelda Williams for additional comment. We have not heard back. Notably, among those now weighing in, Martin Luther King Jr.'s daughter, Bernice King. She just posted about Zelda's comments on X, writing, "I concur concerning my father. Please stop." Joe.
All right, Liz, thank you.
All right, well, coming up, we've got our hands on some pretty eye-opening new research this morning All about how teen boys spend their time online.
We come back why so-called digital masculinity influencers are now flooding many of their feeds and how that's potentially skewing their definition of what it means to be a man. This is Morning News Now. Back now with an exclusive first look at a new study out this morning about boys and the way they're now learning about masculinity.
This new research finds a majority of young boys and teens are learning how to be men through social media and online influencers. For more on this, let's bring in NBC News Daily anchor Kate Snow. Hi, Kate. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. So Common Sense Media surveyed more than 1,000 boys and young men ages 11 to 17, and they found that they're being flooded with content about what it means to be masculine. And most of the time, it just appears on their social media feed without them even searching for it. Here's a look at what your kids might be seeing.
For generations, boys counted on their dads to teach them how to be a man.
Whenever we cook outside, you always do it. How come?
Well, it's sort of traditional, I guess.
But now, masculinity is something that's also taught online. A new study from Common Sense Media finds nearly 3/4 of boys ages 11 to 17 regularly see digital masculinity content, most often about making money, building muscle, and content about fighting, weapons, or guns. 69% of young boys are also regularly exposed to what Common Sense calls problematic gender messaging, like the idea that girls only want to date certain types of guys.
I think it's very hard to be a teenager today, and it's really hard to be a teenage boy.
Jim Steyer is CEO of Common Sense Media.
What's happening to our boys?
They're getting instant messages about how to be muscular, how to look tough, how to dress, how they should be exercising and eating, oftentimes from completely non-reputable sources.
Common Sense says those sources can include influencers on social media who promote harmful gender stereotypes. Boys with high exposure to that kind of content are more likely to have low self-esteem and hide their emotions.
They're hearing over and over again the same thing. You can't show weakness. You don't want to be a wimp. And what it does to kids' self-esteem and self-image is really damaging.
They don't necessarily have to be looking for this content, right?
Maybe they're going on to look at their favorite sports team, but because of the algorithms on the big social media platforms, they then can go quickly down a rabbit hole of masculinity lessons.
16-year-old Miles Nollmuller recently started his junior year in high school outside New York City. Like most teens, he says he spends hours a day scrolling.
What does your social media feed kind of look like?
I get a lot of sports stuff, especially for boxing and mixed martial arts.
Outside of school, Miles enjoys working out and boxing, so he tends to look for videos about that.
When you look at fitness videos, they're going to try to suggest other types of fitness videos to see what you're into. And you're probably going to get a video that's just pushing like more toxic fitness behavior, like, oh, big calorie deficit. You should be eating like 1 meal a day. It's just harmful. It's flat out harmful.
According to the study, 91% of boys encounter body transformation messages online.
A lot of people associate body image kind of videos with girls.
Right, exactly.
And Miles is saying, no, I'm seeing those too. Does that surprise you?
Yeah.
Miles's mom, Joanna, says it's hard to know what kids are being exposed to on social media.
You have to have, I think, a mature sense of what you're looking at and what's real and what's not, and a lot of these kids don't have it. It's terrifying.
Experts say it's critical for parents to have open conversations with their boys.
You have to hear them out about what they're being exposed to, but you share your own values with them. That is the most powerful antidote to any of the content they're going to see online.
Miles says he's able to see past the problematic messaging online.
I know how I want to be. I know how I am currently. If I'm changing myself, it's not for others, it's going to be for myself.
If you want to know what masculinity is, what being a man is, who would you turn to?
Probably my dad.
Having a good relationship with Miles and knowing that he can talk to us is like really the best we can do. I can't change what's out there, but I can hopefully help him see it in a healthy way.
It was pretty clear that Miles knows himself, and he says he's not seeing some of the problematic gender stereotypes that other boys in maybe other parts of the country do. He's outside New York, but he did tell me that if he had seen some of those workout videos when he was younger, he does worry, like if he'd seen Have the Perfect Body, that it might have taken a hit on his self-esteem. One more thing I want to mention, the social media platforms do obviously have parental controls, but common sense says the best parental control is to sit down with your kids and like look at what they're like, ask them, show me what you like, show me what you're into, right? Because maybe that's a way to open the conversation. 80% of the kids in the study did say when they're going through something tough, you know who they turn to? Their parents.
That's great news, right? It's also important for parents to just understand how the platforms work to see some of the content so they can combat it.
I think that's a big issue too, right? A lot of parents are a different generation. They don't necessarily know how it all works.
Get the kids to connect more offline.
Yes.
That also
helps.
is essential.
Absolutely, yes.
All right, Kate, thank you. Great report.
Thank you. All right, now to some financial headlines. Amazon Pharmacy could be coming to a one medical location near you.
NBC's Frank Holland joins us with that and some other money news. Frank, good morning.
Hey, good morning again to both of you. We're going to start with that Amazon story. Amazon's rolling out pharmacy kiosks at select doctors' offices that use its One Medical service. They're going to allow patients to pick up their prescriptions right after their appointment. Each kiosk will be stocked with a curated supply of drugs based on the prescription history of each office. They'll initially be available at offices in the LA area starting in December. And the AI spending spree just rolls on. Bloomberg reports Elon Musk's startup XAI is raising $20 billion in its latest funding round. That's more than initially planned. The financing will partly go to a special purpose vehicle that will buy chips from NVIDIA and rent them to XAI for its data center project in Tennessee. This is just the latest massive investment for the AI industry. On Monday, OpenAI announced a deal to use chips from AMD. And just last month, NVIDIA agreed to invest up to $100 billion in OpenAI. All right, turn to some sports news. Cristiano Ronaldo has a billion reasons to smile today. The superstar becoming the first pro football player or soccer player in the U.S., obviously, to cross the $1 billion threshold after signing a landmark contract with Saudi Arabian team Al Nassr. That deal is reportedly worth more than $400 million and also includes a 15% ownership stake in that club. It also boosts his net worth to roughly $1.4 billion. That's according to the Bloomberg Billionaire Index, making Ronaldo one of the wealthiest athletes in the world. So I guess when you have $1 billion, it doesn't matter if it's soccer or football, you're just a billionaire athlete.
Yeah, his arms were like this in the photo because he's holding all his money. He's going to need a bigger span, though. All right, Frank, thanks.
Exactly.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Well, closer to home, we've got some dramatic scenes along the Jersey Shore to show you. First responders and some good Samaritans raced to save a mother and her two children from drowning at a beach in Ocean City over the weekend. The family survived, but the close call is one of several recent incidents at the Jersey Shore that not everyone was able to walk away from. Reporter Ted Greenberg from NBC New York has the story.
The heart-pounding response unfolded on a summer-like October Sunday that drew lots of people to the beach in Ocean City.
911, where's your emergency?
Someone's drowning in the ocean right between the music pier and the jetty. They're screaming help.
They're coming! They're coming! Police and firefighters scrambled to save a mom and her two kids from Westchester, Pennsylvania, who got swept out by a rip current. Beaches are no longer guarded at this time of the year.
It only takes a second for the current to take you right out.
The ordeal captured on video from numerous angles, a police department drone providing vantage points from above and dropping a flotation device into the water below.
I towed him in kind of on an angle because you don't want to go directly against the current.
Fire department rescue swimmers brought the mom and kids safely back to shore. They also assisted two witnesses who didn't hesitate to go out in the surf to help keep the family afloat.
I know, everyone's accounted for. They're making their way out of the water.
Multiple water rescues in a number of Jersey Shore towns played out this weekend on unguarded beaches. Two in Seaside Park, just a couple hours apart.
8th Ave Beach, Seaside Park. There's a swimmer floating in the ocean. There's a rip current, and he's being pulled out in the rip current.
That man, a 54-year-old from Whippany, New Jersey, did not survive.
You just can't stress it anymore. Know your limits. Know your abilities.
Every time there's a water rescue, first responders put their own safety at risk. An Ocean City cop who went far out onto this jetty actually slipped and fell a couple times.
The rocks are covered with algae, and it becomes, increasingly difficult to walk on. It's a dangerous
dangerous environment.
Authorities say the mother and her kids got checked out at a hospital, but they're all okay.
She was super appreciative, out of breath.
And no doubt breathing easier after this life-saving team effort.
Our thanks to Ted Greenberg for that report.
Coming up, you could call it a real kick of nostalgia that's got some Gen Z folks looking to the past.
When Morning News Now returns, why younger Americans are starting to unplug, ditching the latest tech trends in favor of something a little more old school. That's next.
Finally this hour, Gen Z is hitting the rewind button in an era when information is constantly streamed, shared, and synced. Well, a growing number of young people are choosing to unplug, sort of.
Yeah, this comes as a recent Harris Poll survey found that 80% of Gen Zers say their generation is too dependent on technology, and 60% wish they could go back to a time before everyone was plugged in.
NBC News tech contributor Joanna Stern joins us now with more on this. Joanna, good to have you with us. So talk about more about what's driving so many young people to ditch smartphones and rediscover some of this older tech.
Yeah, I think it's exactly what that survey showed, that many in this Gen Z generation believe that they're just too dependent on technology, and they're looking for not complete sign off. They're not looking to completely ditch their smartphones, but they're certainly looking for little periods of time throughout the day, maybe throughout the week, where they are not dependent on their smartphones. And the Journal had a great story about a club called the Luddite Group that's been forming where people meet. That's one example. The New York Times had a story a few weeks ago about the Reconnect movement. So we're seeing these little kind of pop-ups of clubs where people just embrace not using a smartphone, but embrace using a digital camera, a Walkman, CD players, the stuff we all remember from, when life before smartphones.
I mean, I love that. Especially, we were just having a conversation with our friend Kate Snow just about the harms of these digital platforms and what is on those smartphones and the need to connect in person. We're also seeing this so hit the music world, right? I mean, Taylor Swift right now is pushing so many CD and vinyl versions of her new album. Bad Bunny has done something similar. Do you think that this is a passing trend or like a larger, bigger digital detox, especially when you see things like that, like really impacting industries?
Yeah, and let's not forget, vinyl actually has made a pretty big comeback in the last number of years. Is that as big as digital music streaming? Absolutely not. But it shows that people do want to listen to their music in different ways. I mean, how many times have you gone to listen to something on your phone and then you're distracted by whatever notification, whatever social media app? You just want to listen to the music. You want to escape. And so that's why you're seeing some of the CD movement. That's why I think you're seeing some of the vinyl movement as well.
Taylor even sold cassettes, which I find entertaining and kind of funny. All right, so here's the deal. Even as Gen Zers unplug, as you mentioned, they've still got some digital cameras. They're posting TikTok videos about some of these things. So help us understand what we can learn about this trend, balancing real-world lives with our digital ones. Joanna.
Sorry, I was looking.
Yep, go ahead.
I'm here. Sorry about that. So I was looking at some of the data, and the data does not show significant rise in digital cameras, right? This is not like every single teen and person in their 20s is going out and buying digital cameras, but there's certainly a shift to that. There's certainly a shift to more people wanting to use more. They're not analog, but they're using more digital devices. And in terms of the camera sales, I mean, what people are really, the people or the group that's really focused on not using their smartphones seem to be creators, people who want to go out in the world, create content and upload it to TikTok. So it's a little bit ironic, right? They've gone back to using some digital cameras, but they're actually putting that footage on the cutting edge social media networks.
Joanna, do we see this impacting, like sales of some of these things, like the digital cameras, or people turning to like a flip phone instead of a smartphone?
Yeah, I mean, I was digging into some of the camera data. It doesn't show significant rise, but what you do see is the companies embracing this. Sony, other kind of camera companies trying to cater towards this group of creators, putting in features, putting in different ways of shooting, obviously vertical modes and other ways of shooting that will improve their TikToks. Also, what seemed to happen a few months ago, and I didn't look into this recently, but a lot of people going to eBay to buy older digital cameras, the stuff that like actual models that I had when I was in college. So people are recycling stuff as well. So that's great too.
When I see young people put away the GPS and whip out the old Hudson map books or the atlas, then I'll know they are truly committed.
There was an example of that in the Wall Street Journal story, and I find that crazy. I mean, truly, I will go back. I love my digital camera. I loved my Walkman, but I did not love printing.
We don't need that. Yeah.
Thanks, Joanna.
Thank you.
Let's not do that.
All right. Well, finally this hour, one Brooklyn-based artist has proven that a taxi can do more than get you from point A to point B. It can help connect you to an entire community. NBC's Jay Valle takes us along for the ride.
Gentrification is reshaping cities across America. Here in Brooklyn, one artist is fighting to preserve his neighborhood's history from inside his car.
Welcome to Bushwick, mi gente. I feel like Taxilandia lends itself to capture the story of 40, 50, 60 years of a neighborhood.
Modesto Flaco Jimenez grew up in Bushwick and now drives its streets, sharing the neighborhood's heritage, culture, and resilience through his cab tour, Taxilandia.
Copy 30, copy. We'll tell them you'll be there for an hour.
Ese es mi despacho. What inspired me to make Taxilandia was a moment of me driving a cab, right, from 2007 to 2015 and asking customers questions on how they felt about the changes in the neighborhood and writing poetry off that.
The poetry turned into a 2-hour tour for anyone interested in Bushwick's history.
Let's take a ride through these original indigenous Lenape blocks.
From demolition, unrest, and white flight in the 1960s to Puerto Rican and Dominican families reshaping the neighborhood in the 1970s.
Puerto Rican Sam Shepard.
To artists and young professionals arriving for cheap rent in the 2000s and businesses following. By 2014, Vogue named Bushwick the 7th coolest neighborhood in the world.
Another surprise. First you got chips and water at the bodega, and now you get a slice of pizza.
Bushwick is one of the more than 300 super gentrified neighborhoods in New York.
The lack of affordable housing in gentrifying areas is a real problem because gentrification increases housing costs. That's one of the big drivers of displacement.
Jimenez started the tours in 2021, drawing thousands of riders from near and far.
It's important to immerse ourselves within our communities as well as all over wherever we visit on a day-to-day basis.
Ultimately, Taxilandia pays homage to the neighbors and businesses that are still here, finding ways to adapt. From the bodega owner Modesto, who's been on the same corner for decades.
Me dedico a mi cosa, yo trabajo 17 horas diario.
To local street vendor Yolanda, competing with storefronts.
Yo trabajo aquí 30 años.
The tour has expanded beyond Brooklyn, rolling through Washington, D.C. and San Diego, with plans to hit other cities in the new year. For his hometown, Jimenez's message is simple.
Breathe in the changes. Take care of each other. You're gonna be all right.
Jay Valle, NBC News.
It's a good message right there. Plus, he's got a cool car.
Yeah, for real.
And do it for this hour of morning news now.
Stay with us, though. The news continues right now.
We thank you for watching. And remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.